Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. A night that is not our normal broadcasting night, which is usually Wednesday. My name is Dan Wilson. I am your candidate for Kootenai County Sheriff. In fact, I am the most conservative, constitutional-minded individual in this race for Kootenai County 2024. Thanks for joining us. Whether you are down south in the Boise area, Pocatello, Twin Falls, Idaho Falls, all the way to the west into eastern Washington, to the east in Montana, or right here in the greatest county in the entire United States. That is Kootenai County, Idaho, the Free Republic. Thanks for joining us. In fact, we have a lot of great things to talk about tonight. It's been a very, very newsworthy week. We've had a January 6th attendee arrested right here in Kootenai County, but where was Bob Norris? Oh, I know where he was. Do you know where he was?
I think I know where he was.
We also have more updates on the financial backing of Bob Norris that comes from out of state, and I think you guys are going to want to hear some of these numbers as well. We are also going to talk about being ready for anything and the Supreme Court ruling that is pending on J6. So
being ready for anything?
Being ready for anything.
Like high grocery prices?
All of the above. This is my wife and producer.
I am Donna Wilson. I am Dan's co-host, producer, and wife. So we'll dispel that rumor right there. There's a little bit of nepotism going on here. We want to remind you to, as you're logged on, joining us from whichever platform, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, share the live broadcast. You can do that right now, and that's going to share it to all the friends in your feed and expand our audience. Remember that at any time during the program, you can put your questions or comments right into the comment section of whichever platform that you are watching on. We've got some other exciting things.
Oh, yeah.
We just yesterday got in these magnetic car bumper stickers. Dan laughed at me because he's like, that's like a big bumper. But it fits perfectly on the bumper of my 4Runner. So for trucks and SUVs, this is great. What I want to fill you in on with this is we are looking for anybody who gives a minimum $25 donation. We are going to get you your magnetic bumper sticker.
We're going to do that, though, for people that are giving outside of the Kootenai County area, or does this just apply?
Well, this is going to apply to local because that's where the bumper sticker is going to be most effective. And we're not going to ship these because we're going to be responsible with our dollars, and we're not going to ship magnetic bumper stickers all over. So donations to the campaign, a minimum of $25. And then, of course, we welcome any amount above and beyond that. It's a lot just to... We've really been judicious with the funds that we have, but printing lawn signs and doing some of that marketing stuff
I don't have the big donors like Bob Norris does, and including a lot of out-of-state donors. So, yeah, we are being as frugal as we can to get the message of liberty without compromise. We have a couple events coming up that you will want to be watching for on June 22nd. And I believe it is 10 a.m. at Athol City Hall. I'm going to be having a town hall. I had a town hall this past Saturday at Spirit Lake. Great time. I love getting out and meeting all of you in all four corners of this great county. Also, tomorrow night is the Coeur d'Alene show. And they're going to have the Coeur d'Alene parade starting, I think it's around 5 o'clock. You'll have to check. But I'm going to be in a Corvette, so be watching for me.
Oh, wait.
Disappointing news.
Disappointing. But if they see you, if they find you, do they win something?
Well, they win my gratitude and a big old howdy.
Oh, I wanted to say too, I talked about donations. You can give securely online on our website at theidahosheriff.com. It's a beautiful platform there that keeps your information secure and helps process all of that and helps us keep your donation straight with our treasurer. Because trust me, we don't keep things straight. Our treasurer she's on it.
Now, she's a professional.
That's theidahosheriff.com. I don't remember if I said that, but
you can't ever say theidahosheriff.com enough. Follow us on not only theidahosheriff.com, but also on all social media platforms, X, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. This broadcast tonight will be saved and you can review it on any of those platforms as well.
So, and that's why also you can share it even when it's being reviewed. We just had a reminder that the Athol, the town hall in Athol is at the community center. I don't remember.
Well, it's community center, and down below is their actual town hall, not to be confused with the town hall that I'm going to be hosting, but my town hall will be at the Athol Town Hall.
Okay.
On June 22nd, Saturday, 10 a.m.
Yeah,
so
let's get to talking about some juicy stuff.
I love talking about liberty without compromise. And as a reminder, your sheriff is the highest elected law enforcement official in the county, the CLEO. And my job, if and when I become sheriff, is to protect every one of the citizens of Kootenai County's rights to life, liberty, and property with equal protection under the law. And it's important that you have a sheriff that truly understands the intent of the founders who wrote those great documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, to understand what their intent was as to why they formed the government the way they did, why the Bill of Rights was so important. And when you understand that frame of reference, you can much better protect people's rights as the last line of defense against an out of control, unaccountable state, federal, and even local government. So I always love talking about liberty. Now, recently in local news here in Kootenai County, we had around June 3rd, a gentleman by the name of Ronald Courtier. If I mispronounced that, my sincere apologies. But apparently Ronald was charged by the FBI for being part of the January 6th breach of the Capitol, whatever that means. There was an arrest warrant that was filled out and returned. We don't have very good details, and I'm going to get to why we don't have details right now. You know, your sheriff that is currently sitting in the office has said that he is the most constitutional sheriff out there and that he is the most accessible sheriff out there. And yet we had the FBI in our own county arresting an individual, a citizen of Kootenai County. Now, we don't know the details. It happened in the city of Rathdrum. The sources that I've talked to at Rathdrum PD don't seem to know anything about this. So we don't know whether the FBI came in their typical fashion and swooped this guy up, or whether his attorney talked him into turning himself in. But if we had a sheriff that was truly for the people, my belief is the transparency would have been there. He would have been, since he loves the limelight so much, he would be out there telling everybody in a press conference exactly what's going on and the impact to those individuals that are facing charges. Even right here in Kootenai County, there are several folks that apparently were at the Capitol and are potentially facing charges by this Gestapo, this Department of Justice run FBI that does not truly care about your rights to life, liberty, and property. In fact, they abuse the people over and over and over again. When have you seen any justice for the people that experienced all the summer of rage in Portland, in Seattle, in Minneapolis, when thugs assaulted people, innocent people? They burned buildings down. In some cases, they murdered people. Wouldn't you think that the FBI, if they truly believed in equal protection under the law, that they too would be going after those perpetrators, those criminals, just as much as they are grandmas and, you know, regular Americans like you and me that just happen to be on the Capitol grounds? Well, you know what our Congress thinks about the FBI, despite the constant violations of the FISA courts and numerous other atrocities. What do? Congress, you know, those do nothing, no good SOBs that I can't stand, you know, our federal government, the people that we're supposed to be accountable to. Well, they rewarded the FBI by giving them a $3.5 billion new facility. So Sheriff Norris, though, of course, he loves his connections with the FBI. Can't ever say enough good about them. Doesn't seem to be any demarcation. He was not even around here when this story broke. So this story broke on Saturday, I believe it was. And where was Bob Norris? Well, Bob Norris and Special Deputy County Commissioner, former campaign manager to Bob Norris, Bruce Matari. They were down in Las Vegas at the Ahern Hotel, where both of them received donations, or well, for certain it was Norris, received donations from billionaire Don Ahern. They were with Don Ahern, rubbing shoulders with Trump. And in fact, I want you to see this photo that we've just posted up there of Special Deputy Matari, DC Matari, because he came from Washington, DC. He's got his little star lapel on because he's a special deputy. Never seen him wear that around Kootenai County, but he's wearing it in Vegas. So, and he's got his little name tag so that all the people in Las Vegas know that he is a county commissioner from Kootenai County. So
the star, I'm thinking he might realize that wouldn't play very well here in Kootenai County, but he could get away with it.
Yeah.
Down in good old Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, I saw him last night at a function, and, he didn't want to stay and chat. In fact, he wasn't wearing his special star, but he was wearing his name tag for everyone to see. Anyway, so we have this event taking place. We don't know the details, and a sheriff really should have been out there instead of hobnobbing with his billionaire donors in Las Vegas trying to get a photo op with President Trump. Probably should have actually taken care of business here locally, since so many of us despise the FBI. We don't trust them, to find out exactly what are the exact terms of what took place, what actually happened, what are the facts, instead of leaving the press. Why is the press breaking this, Bob? Why is the press having to tell the people in Kootenai County that the FBI is here arresting our people? We want to know. And I think that you probably should level with us and give us a summary of what happened so that the rest of us don't have to do endless records requests. You have the ability right now to tell us what's going on. And I believe that you should probably be doing that.
I don't know about you, but if I'm in Kootenai County and I have a 3-letter agency knocking on my door any time of the day, I know there's hours they're
6 a.m. to 10 p.m. typically.
I don't want my sheriff to be out of town.
Well, he tells everybody, if they come to your door, call him and he'll be there, Johnny on the spot. Kabuki theater, folks. But let's talk a little more about this case, and more specifically, this January 6th staged event where hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent citizens have been entrapped. We know from testimony that's continually coming out in video footage that there was agitators inside the group that went to the Capitol, and many unsuspecting people walked onto the grounds. They were ushered in, they were directed. They were not committing violent acts. They were not committing, property crimes. They just happened to be trespassing. Now, the FBI has pulled out all their stops. Instead of looking after going after human traffickers and the fentanyl crisis and all the terrorists that are coming across our border with the over 12 to 20 million illegals that have entered into this country. Now they want to go and persecute people like Ronald and others. And there is a Supreme Court ruling that we are waiting to see what the results are. Now, this ruling, I think we can pull it up, is Fisher versus U.S. And my point to this is the FBI right now should most likely stop persecuting any kind of defendant or suspect that they're going after, because this ruling, if the Supreme Court rules in favor, is going to totally upend many, if not most, of the nonviolent convictions. And that has something to do with a little interpretation of the law. So we have Fisher versus U.S. Fisher was committing some acts of violence, but he's doing some other things as well. And under U.S. code, because Congress was in session, he was charged with obstructing official congressional business. And it went to another court, and they kind of reversed that, went back again. And finally, it's before the Supreme Court, and they are arguing about what it truly means to obstruct an official business of Congress. Pence was already gone. We have, the issue as to, was it truly an obstruction? So we are anxiously waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on this. We hope that the ruling goes in favor of the American people so that most of these convictions and the millions of dollars that have been wasted by the DOJ, remember, this same DOJ that is going after your neighbor, whether, Dan Gookin, whether you agree with these people or not, are you going to tell me, Dan Gookin, that every individual that was there at the Capitol was a violent actor? I think you and all of your libertarian thinking would agree that people still deserve their due process, and that the federal government, the DOJ, the FBI, should be going after maybe those terrorists that are coming across our border, you know, the ones that Chris Wray said were here. And we just got a report the other day that apparently they broke up a plot of 3 different cities where terrorists were going to act out. Folks, we must hold the federal government accountable. We are American citizens. Everybody is due their equal protection under the law, their due process. And we know that this has not taken place for many of the people that have been locked up or charged. So I pray that it goes well for the American people, because by God, this is not the way the founders originally intended the government to operate. And this weaponization of the federal government must stop now. Men of liberty, women of liberty, stand and make your voices heard and defy these tyrants and speak out against the evil that they are perpetrating. As sheriff, I'm going to absolutely hold the federal government accountable and make certain that it does not violate any of the citizens of Kootenai County's rights. If they violate the rights of the citizens of Kootenai County, there will be consequences. So I don't know, I'm a little fired up anytime I think about the atrocities that take place. Again, you burn down cities, and the Gestapo, instead of going after political opponents. You disgust me. All right, I'm done with that.
Time for a question?
Let's love it. Let's take a question.
If you're elected and downtown CDA puts on another drag show event, will you send deputies to help CDA police to either stand by or help with anything or calls that arise?
Our office will always stand to support any of the municipal police departments inside Kootenai County. Spirit Lake, we'll love to partner up with those folks. Rathdrum, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene included. Our deputies will always be there to assist in protecting people and to holding people accountable if they deprive others of life, liberty, and property. But as far as going down there to arrest people because they're in drag, if they're not committing a crime, then there will be no action.
That's a firm answer.
Yeah. Now, you and I happened to be downtown Coeur d'Alene this past Sunday. We were down by the boat launch right next to the resort, and we heard a familiar sound that we've heard a lot.
A whirlybird.
A whirlybird. And I looked at it. I couldn't quite tell because I don't have the greatest eyesight as I once did. And I said, I don't know if that's the Kootenai County Regional Air Support Unit. You got a little bit better eyes, and you said, actually, I think it is. I pull out Flight Tracker app, and sure enough, we have that helicopter making circles around the resort, over Tubbs Hill, out a little bit over the lake, back tighter. And I'm thinking, what in the world are these guys doing? I don't see any
burning fuel at about how much per hour?
I think the average operating cost to fly those is about $1,500, but we're not paying for it. Remember, we're not paying for it. Donations. So as you and I are watching this and getting annoyed at the sound of a helicopter on a otherwise beautiful Sunday down next to beautiful Lake Coeur d'Alene, we decide to leave, right? And as we are walking up out of the park near the boat launch, we see 6 or 7 squad cars from Kootenai County, and they were all stacking up there right off of the frontage road and into, I think it's McEwen Park. So I was a little bit curious as to what was going on. It didn't look like there was any fire rescue heading our way. Didn't hear any sirens. The deputies in the car weren't, too motivated to move fast. We later on find out that there was a motorcycle group that apparently wigged out not only Coeur d'Alene PD, but Kootenai County. And they decided they were going to, well, let me back up. There is a new noise ordinance going into effect that has actually gone into effect at Coeur d'Alene. And it happens a lot that knuckleheads who have loud pipes either on their cars, trucks, or motorcycles are a little bit ornery, and they like to show off. And some of us, myself included, don't care for that sound when you're trying to have a conversation. But regardless of what my belief is, Coeur d'Alene put in a new ordinance that says if your exhaust is too loud, you get a $300 fine. Apparently, a motorcycle group decided to ride together, not outlaw motorcycle group, but a motorcycle club or a gathering, I'm not certain all the details, decided to get together to form a protest and started heading from, I believe my sources tell me, from the state line to the west of Coeur d'Alene. And well, there was some questionable detention that took place on a couple of these bikes. Again, I'm waiting for actual facts, so we're just speaking right now on what has been reported, but there happened to be 5 or 6 of these riders that were detained all at the same time because somebody flicked a cigarette, which is a crime, but they didn't know which one threw the cigarette, so they were detaining 5 or 6 of them. Anyway, I don't know. Do you guys think that that's a great use of the helicopter and all of the squads to be running down there to?
There were a lot of them. I mean, and they didn't seem to be responding to anything urgent, all converging.
And again, look, I'm not armchair quarterbacking this, but from the reports that have been sent to me by people that are law enforcement that do know how these things work, it was overkill. And I find it hilarious that right now everyone is upset about Pride in the Park and all of these other activities of people that are participating in their First Amendment rights. And Bob Norris likes to frequently talk about he's a great negotiator, that apparently, according to Bob, he somehow contacted the Pride event folks and talked them out of, having a drag show or a parade. I'm not certain which one he's taking credit for. It hasn't been verified. But then why is he against others of, carrying out their First Amendment rights too of peaceful protest? I mean, come on. Anyway, I don't know that I agree with what went down. Maybe the facts will play out later and I'll be apprised of something that is of more substance than what I have seen, but not impressed right now with the presentation that I saw this past weekend.
I think part of what you were alluding to is that it's easy to have your eyes following incidents like Pride in the Park or inappropriate, very wrong and inappropriate books that are accessible to children in libraries, and to have these as 2 bouncing balls to say, keep your eyes here. And possibly what you're alluding to is we have much bigger things afoot that we need to be paying attention to. And it's interesting how often we get asked the question about what are you going to do for Pride in the Park or the smut that's in the libraries, when I think there are more important things that voters in Kootenai County residents need to be paying attention to.
Well, I'd like to bring up this incident again. So the question was, are you going to go down to Coeur d'Alene? And Coeur d'Alene is its own city. They run their own police department, have their own operations. And it's kind of the same thing again. So on one hand, do you want to be involved? On the other hand, we also have the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, county. They don't typically work in the incorporated areas in pretty large numbers, targeting bikers. So, I mean, I don't know. It just seems misplaced. I think that I would like to talk to who the supervisors were that day and find a little more as to the decision-making and who authorized what actions. Guess we'll wait to see. Like everything that's going on with Kootenai County right now, we're still waiting on information for the erroneously released prisoner from Kootenai County Jail here a couple weeks ago. So stand by. We have not forgotten about it. It takes Kootenai County Sheriff's Office a very long time to get information back
They
to
don't
us.
seem to come out real quickly and make statements in advance of things. They just don't.
Well,
seem
you
to
know what
make
it is when your public relations officer, Special Deputy Matari, who Bob is on the record in video explaining that's why Special Bruce Matari is there. When he's down with Trump, hobnobbing with billionaire donors out of state, well, he's not available to come and give any kind of press release or be the public information officer for the sheriff's office. So, I mean, you're kind of asking a lot.
Yeah. We got a tip. I'm not going to say it's anonymous, but this isn't verified.
Yeah.
We don't know, but I do want to share this. It's interesting. Norris didn't convince anyone of anything regarding the drag show Pride in the Park. Call NIPA. They made the decision for themselves. Norris isn't trusted and has nothing to do with the decision to have the drag show taken away.
Mhm.
But that is the rumor that's going around, that Norris has his cronies telling people, look at the great and wonderful thing that Norris has done. So this isn't verified, but
well, whoever sent that in, first of all, thank you, because truth is of the utmost importance. And if you do have good, credible information that you'd be willing to share, even anonymously, but again, we want to make certain that it is verified, please send it to the Idaho info. Excuse me, I almost said the website again. info@theidahosheriff.com. Let us know what we can observe, read, what facts are there for us to articulate back. But yeah, I was actually apprised of him saying that or somebody on his behalf.
it's
I think,
being spread in a lot of the local
the great negotiator.
Yeah, a lot of the local groups where we talk politics, we get into debates, and that's one of the arguments that's used. I do want to clarify one thing. NIPA is the North Idaho Pride Alliance, which I should have known. I have actually visited their website looking for info on that. But thank you.
Yeah, and again, remember, just because my political views are different from many in this community, I will protect your rights to life, liberty, and property with equal protection under the law, period, because that is what the founders intended. And that is exactly what I will do. I still hold very close and dear to my convictions as a conservative, but you better believe the sheriff's office under my watch will definitely be treating everybody equally. We're not going to give anybody special protection. We're not going to give anybody, unequal justice or special justice. It's going to be equal protection under the law. So thank you very much for sending that in. We have any other questions that we want to tag right now, or can I move on?
Yeah, let's keep on.
So last week we talked about donors. Now, Bob Norris reported in his most recent financials about $106,000. And out of that, 10% or about 11,000, 10 to 11,000 comes from out-of-state donors. And an additional 10% come from big business. I don't know if you have the PDF of the earnings, or not earnings, but the report.
I'll work on pulling that up.
But it's a sunshine report. And I have a question. I don't have a good answer right now, but when you look at the business that is sending large contributions to Bob, many of them at the maximum $1,000 level, and we're not even going to talk about the ones that cross over with Special Deputy Bruce Matari from the cannabis industry. But
meaning contributions to his campaign.
His campaign, yeah. Thank you very much for articulating that or helping me along the way. So I have circled here some curious donations. It's called in the contribution column of the most recent report. The Coeur d'Alene Press, the CDA Press, gave $1,100 to Norris in the primary. Now, before you get really, really upset about this, like at first I was going, what the heck? Why is the paper giving a candidate $1,000? Well, I went and I pulled the hard record out, and it stated in the memo that it was a refund. So I'm not certain why it's in the contribution column and why it was a refund. But if it's like 2020, maybe it has something to do with the Deputy Sheriff's Association PAC that was illegally, colluding with the Norris campaign for advertisements against his political opponents. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But we do know that the FOP got a lot of money and was working hard to unseat KCRCC PC committee members. And in many cases, unfortunately, they were in fact defeated, I think to the tune of 30. Again, I'm getting old, so I don't remember week to week, but yeah, that FOP caused a lot of damage to the KCRCC brand. And I have talked to many KCRCC members and others in the community that are not happy with Special Deputy Bruce Matari. And I think they've called Norris a traitor numerous times as well.
Uh-oh.
But he's in good standing with his FOP, those guys that back him and that also share in their leadership at the FOP leadership inside the sheriff's office. So it doesn't surprise me. Now, we look at some of the donors that we talked about last week, if you didn't happen to watch, but there's a couple interesting names that popped up in the most recent filings from out of state. And one of those happens to be a guy by the name of Jason Vedati. Now, Jason Vedati primarily resides, from my research, in Arizona. He's a real estate developer. He also has 3 properties right here in Kootenai County, one down on the river by the college. But his primary business looks to be in the cannabis business. So we had an article last week that we pulled up, and he and his wife Shayna have each contributed $1,000 to Bob Norris, and they each contributed $1,000, as I recall, to Bruce Matari for his run in 2022. Now, I'm kind of curious as to why real estate developers, when Bob and Bruce are continually telling everybody they're for responsible and smart growth.
Well, and they'll accuse anybody and everybody else of somehow being involved in real estate or commercial development. They'll accuse, I mean, I can name names. You've been accused of it. Leslie Duncan's been like, look at over all these guys. And then you realize, well, these are the ones whose donors.
The developers are giving these guys the big dollar. So we really believe you, Bob and Bruce. Looking at that, I have questions. And I think every one of you should go to sos/idaho.gov. Go to the campaign portal where you can look up who's donating to every campaign, including mine, as well as what they're spending their money on. This applies also to the Deputy Sheriff's Association PAC, which you'll find them under Kootenai County. I believe it's Deputy Sheriff's Association. But why does this matter? Well, let me give you a couple other examples. You're going to find that Don Ahern, that billionaire from Las Vegas, who was the owner of not only Ahern Rentals, that was bought out, I believe, by United Rentals for $2 billion. They're based out of Las Vegas. He also owns Extreme Manufacturing that builds the extended boom forklifts. You'll see them around construction sites all over the Northwest. In fact, I believe we've rented those before. He also owns 51% of Snorkel, which is, the man lifts that also telescope out. They're telescopic lifts. And he recently, in the past couple of years, purchased the Ahern Hotel in Las Vegas. So again, why is a guy from Las Vegas giving not only from his personal account, but also from Extreme Manufacturing? And why is the CEO of his other business, which is a cubicle business, they build these modular buildings to put on your building site, they're all giving, I think it's close to $5,000 total. So you have to, folks, be continually asking yourself why a sheriff in Kootenai County is getting donations, maximum donations, from people outside of this county. And instead of being here tending to business, he's out, he being Bob and Special Deputy Bruce, because they're inseparable, the dynamic duo. They are with their wives in Vegas. Well, I can only say one wife because we only see a picture of Carla Matari, who doesn't believe in First Amendment rights. Just so
yeah, we have that on record.
But these guys, both these men, are getting a lot of money from outside. California and Nevada seem to be the largest epicenters of out-of-state donations. 10% of its overall campaign fund, war chest, to date. By the way, remember that in 2020, Captain Mike Bauer, that started at the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department when Bob Norris was 6 years old, he warned people in Kootenai County, he warned the Secretary of State and the clerk that Bob was getting dirty money from Tam's Hamburgers out of Los Angeles. Now, in 2020, a little recap, there were three, and I think it was actually $4,000 in donations from 4 of these hamburger stands, Los Angeles, to a Kootenai County sheriff candidate. And remember, Chris Vovos owns Tam's Hamburgers. Chris Vovos was a special deputy, kind of like, you know, Bruce Matari, guys that never actually went through an academy or did any of the hard stuff that those of us that were sworn had to do, but had a special deputization and a little badge. At the time, Bauer said, this is crooked money. They're laundering money. And he was kicked to the curb and told to mind his business. He didn't know what he was talking about. Fast forward 4 years to January of 2024, Los Angeles Times broke a story where Tam's Hamburgers was laundering money to campaigns, to include Sheriff Villanueva, who had to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanors for illegally accepting campaign dollars. Bauer was right. And folks in Kootenai County and the state of Idaho didn't give a damn, didn't want to actually do the work that Bauer has done, and it's clearly shown. But this is what Bob Norris does. He was immersed in the Baca Tanaka Sheriff's Office of the pay-to-play of the most corrupt sheriff's office in the country. And he comes by naturally. It's pay-to-play, whether it's a helicopter, you know, for example. But I guess on his $182,000 a year disability retirement that he's on, plus his $150,000 that he makes as sheriff of this county, and remember that a portion of his disability from California isn't taxable by the IRS. Well, look, maybe he just wants to make certain that he keeps every dollar of his own, and that's why he's chancing taking these dollars from out of state. I'm not bitter, I'm concerned. Your sheriff should be loyal to the people of this county, not to anybody else that is out of state, even if they have a residence here that's their summer residence. If it's not their primary residence and the money's coming from out of state, beware.
I want to make sure that this doesn't get lost. This is an important factor. You had talked about any of us, any of you has the ability to go on to look at the campaign finance. So I want to put this up on the screen. It's the sos.idaho.gov. And then there's an elections division. It's very easy to navigate. The campaign finance portal page is moved, but they put a link right there on the screen. So it's important because you never know. You can type in who the candidate is, who's running, and start going through those reports. There might be businesses and names that you recognize where you start to see some of your own red flags. Dan and I have done that just as citizens of Kootenai County. And of course, it's important to us as part of this race, but it should be equally as important to every single one of us to understand where is that money coming from and why.
And I want to remind people, the primary was about a month ago, and Traffic Corp here locally, which is a road flagging operation for road construction, that company is owned by Dan and Carrie Edwards. Dan was a former mayor of Dalton Gardens here in the Coeur d'Alene area. Their company, their corporation gave $10,000 to the Deputy Sheriff's Association. Remember the PAC, the Deputy Sheriff's Association PAC, used a lot of money to promote candidates that were not KCRCC endorsed candidates, like Brett Surplus, Sleepy Dale Giboney, and a host of KCRC, I almost said that wrong, of non-KCRCC PC committeemen. So the question is why? And we know that businesses like Travacorp, they're not dumb. So why were they giving $10,000 to the PAC? And then of course they gave an additional maximum donation, I believe, each individually to Brett Surplus. Brett Surplus had about $4,000 total to his campaign.
He used it on some really nice signs.
Yeah, really nice signs.
A comment, we're going back to some of the large donors and corporate donors to Norris's campaign. A comment from Instagram. Dope growers out here can compensate some counties for, quote, future public resource use, end quote. And that's common use from the Bulgarian and cartel growers out here in California. Thanks for watching and joining us from California.
Yeah, folks, I know that people in business never give money, or at least in my experience, the majority with extreme wealth do not give money for no reason.
Yeah.
When you look at articles where Vedati, again, the speculation, just for the record, I'm not saying this is fact, but speculation. Vedati in one of the cannabis magazines was talking about business and the fact that he is looking always for new markets, new opportunities. And he talked about the fact that, you know, in places like Washington, where now it's legal and the dispensaries are out there, that, you know, there's a lot harder nut crack when it comes to making profits. So the question is somebody like Vedati looking to Idaho because he believes that medical marijuana is around the corner and maybe full legalization? I mean, we're surrounded by states where it is legal. So again, speculation, but you have to ask yourself, a guy of that high profile that is quoted numerous times in multiple publications as the cannabis guy, well, why is he giving it to the chief law enforcement officer of the county and the county commissioner that was his former campaign manager and special deputy that does have access to protected information, privileged information that you and I don't have as a politician? Everybody needs to remember that Bruce Matari still has that special deputization, and neither County Commissioner Brooks or Duncan, who actually was a cop, has that same courtesy. And by the way, I'm saying courtesy being nice, no offense, but there shouldn't be any special deputization of any county commissioner, because the county commissioners approve the budgets, which you and I were talking about this the other day. The county commissioners approve the sheriff's office budgets.
Let's come back to that. I'm going to get to some questions, because we promise, we say put your questions.
Awesome.
So put your questions in to catch up. If you're new, just put your questions in the comment section, no matter which platform you're listening on, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, and I'm gonna get those over to Dan. So another question from Danny on Instagram. As far as illegal immigrants in Kootenai County, what will your policy look like for patrol deputies when they contact them? Detain and call Border Patrol? The feds can't just deport nowadays.
Yeah. Well, that's a difficult one, because our hands are tied to a degree, and there's things like civil rights that we have to be cognizant of. So each contact is going to be different. As I have said, because the federal government is not enforcing Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, which requires them to secure our borders and to protect us from foreign threats. In fact, we know, because of our visit down there at the Arizona border that was unsecure, where we saw hundreds of military-aged males from Africa and the Middle East that were walking freely on U.S. soil, no Border Patrol. The U.S. government is at war with we the people. You can't deny it. So we know that they're here, they're everywhere. So they have caused this great problem. And the state of Idaho tried, the House passed some great legislation, but the Senate didn't bother to pick it up, where we can have better tools in our toolbox, to quote Sheriff Norris, at our fingertips to help secure us better. There are a couple options. One is the ICE, it's 28GS, I believe. I probably got that wrong, where certain deputies can actually enroll and become ICE deputy agents so they can help deport. But more importantly, where we're going to have to go right now until the state legislature gives us the ability to take individuals that are here illegally, invaders, and to get them out of the area, we're going to have to go after the NGOs. Now, the U.S. government has funded these non-governmental organizations. They have given them over $1.5 billion, your tax dollars, to aid and abet the movement and the care of these invaders all across the United States. NGOs, Catholic charities, Lutheran charities, Jewish charities, to name just a few. When NGOs come into Kootenai County, my belief is we need to have a task force similar to Drug Task Force, where we work with multiple partners, and we go after the NGOs that are subverting our laws in Kootenai County, in the state of Idaho, and we hold them accountable, and we start making it so difficult for them to do their business, such a liability, that they decide to bypass Kootenai County altogether.
Danny, thanks you for answering these tough questions, because they're tough. What would your pursuit policy for deputies look like? Only pursuing for violent crime, DUIs, only pursuing for stuff you saw happen, or maybe unlocking, reinitiating the ability for deputies to pursue crime?
Well, look, I'm a cop at heart, and I believe that when you hire a man or woman to be a police officer or a deputy, you are hiring them because of their ability to be reasonable, objective, I can't say the word. They need to be objective, but they also need to have critical thinking skills and discernment. And I think it's poor for us to continually hamstring our officers and not let them do their jobs. It comes down to what is objective, reasonable, and necessary at the time. So as far as what that policy is going to look like, I can't say 100% right now, but I am definitely a fan of pursuits when the general public at large is not at risk in relation to what the crime was. So somebody shoplifts, look, we're not in the middle of the day going to most likely allow high-speed pursuits through Kootenai County. Look, I got family, you have family. We don't want our family members hurt. But violent felonies, other BARC crimes, we're most likely going to allow that. So I know that ICRIMP doesn't like that. I'm certain the county commissioners are going to be a little bit concerned, but we will construct a very doable pursuit policy in order to allow our deputies to do the job that they need. And again, my belief is you trust the deputies' discernment, their discretion, their reasonableness. And of course, there's always a supervisor that can either terminate or allow the pursuit once it takes place. But pursuits are a lot of fun.
I want to bounce over to something that you started to go that way. We took a couple of questions,
yeah.
But the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And the type of experience that it has been said that you don't necessarily have. How can Dan Wilson manage a budget for the office of the sheriff of a $46 million? How could you do that? Have we learned anything since you first started getting that question back in January? Have we learned?
Well, I've laughed at that because there's an assumption, first of all, that the sheriff has to be a career law enforcement professional, and that they have to be an expert in anything and everything. And it's an executive level position. 3 things required in the state of Idaho to become a sheriff. You have to be 21 years of age, a citizen of the United States, and actually reside in the county that you're running for at least a year. Now, that being said, it is wise to have law enforcement experience, which I have 12 years of law enforcement experience, but it's also important for the office to have somebody that's experienced in business and in actually formulating and executing real budgets that are not derived from taxpayer dollars, but from actual money that, is from your own treasury. And so I've laughed because, of course, in 25 years with my contracts, whether it's with the federal government or big corporations, cities, municipalities, states, whatever, we always have to negotiate them, and they are complex and they're moving and they're fluid. So I've been reading profit and loss statements and budgets for 25 years, and the measure of success is either you win or you lose. And if you lose, you're not in business. But for 25 years, I've somehow managed to stay in business. Now, all that aside, I've continually told people that Bob Norris does not get out his laptop out and start going, hey, firearms, $3,000, body armor, donuts, $10,000, so on and so forth, and comes up with his own budget, because I understand that the budget is comprised of all the different departments submitting their proposed budgets, as well as there is a budgeting officer that works for the county. So I was never concerned about when people think that somehow that a guy like me that basically lives under a rock, doesn't know how anything works, is going to walk in there and screw up a $46 million, but actually it's now a $50 million budget. So I've argued this and said it quite frankly that it's not what you guys think, and those that are spouting that nonsense either, number one, are uneducated and don't know how budgeting process works for a large organization, or number two, they're just being knuckleheads and trying to stir the pot. So we saw something last week that was quite humorous. Week ago, the sheriff went before the Board of County Commissioners to submit his fiscal year 25 operating budget, and it had grown from 46 million to just about 50 million. And as Leslie Duncan, County Commissioner, introduced Sheriff Robert Bob Norris, Bob Norris did something that was typical of what we see Bob do.
First item, or our only item, our FY25 budget review, and with our Sheriff Norris.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I'm going to defer to Under Sheriff Brett Nelson and Stephanie.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise.
Before we proceed with our FY25.
Yeah, so that's funny. Did you just put that on there?
I put a surprise in there for Dan.
So what did we learn from this? Sheriff Bob Norris does not, unlike prosecuting attorney Stanley Mortensen, Bob doesn't even present his own budget.
Well,
he doesn't even lead his own people.
Yeah, give a recap of that for anybody who maybe couldn't hear the audio, because it was brief, but it tells all.
So Norris goes before the board. You can see him standing or sitting there in his blue blazer, and he's basically introduced and given the floor to present his budget, and he immediately defers to Under Sheriff Brett Nelson. Nice guy. I like Brett. Brett's a stand-up, good dude. And Stephanie, the sheriff's budgeting officer. So Stephanie later on says, after Brett talks about, hey, here's our methodology on how we came up with this budget, and the considerations and the projections that we have devised. Stephanie then also reiterates the same thing and says, we're also going to ask questions of the lieutenants and the captains that are seated in this budget review meeting for any questions that I can't answer. So the bottom line is the CEO is the sheriff, and the sheriff just needs to understand who he's got in every position and look over everything they're doing. But I myself will be giving the presentation to the Board of County Commissioners.
I was going to ask, in this case too, in lest anybody think that video was edited and you're getting the wrong idea, we were there. We were present for that meeting. You too can go look this up, the Board of County Commissioners here in Kootenai County, and watch that entire hour. That was how the meeting started. He deferred, and I think he spoke maybe for 60 to 120 seconds at one point in an hour-long budget presentation. Would you, because I cut you off, Is that the way that you would operate, or do you see that there's value to being more involved?
Well, I believe as part of the head of the office, especially when you're going before your fellow elected officials, those that actually, authorize your budget, that I should be leading my team by walking them through the process. And along the way, as I do even in my business practice today, you can defer to part of your team where their expertise is far greater than mine and they can answer in greater detail. Look, CEO, sheriff, whatever, does not have to know every minute detail, but he needs to be able to understand where things look wrong. And I have been saying this since I announced my run. I'm going to go before the Board of County Commissioners, which looks like it'll be Mark Everline and Leslie Duncan and Special Deputy Matari, who won't have a special deputization, by the way, once I become sheriff. He'll just be a regular county commissioner.
Oh,
I'm going to request a large sum that it will take in order to forensically audit the sheriff's office. And we want to tear it apart top to bottom, find out where all the dollars are going, whether they're being spent accurately, judiciously, if they need to be redirected, if there's waste, we need to see all of that. We're also going to be looking at federal grants, what strings are tied to them, because I am a zero fan of the federal government offering us body armor or Glocks or rifles or whatever at the expense of not being independent as the sheriff's office. So
comes with strings attached.
strings attached. Yeah.
So we have just about a few minutes left in the hour. I don't know if you want to bring us an encouraging word or hit on one other of the things that you thought of tonight.
I want to talk to you about being ready for anything and everything. We live in extremely uncertain times. And if you listen to the media, any day we're going to get nuked. We're going to get blown up by terrorists. Our grid's going to go down. You name it, something's going to happen. And we are definitely living in very uncertain times because we have weak men that are leading this country. Strong men, like my grandfather who fought World War II, can't be found. Obviously, they're not around, but their spirit, their determination, their hardness is no longer part of our culture. The sheriff's office, when I'm sheriff, we're going to have a citizens posse, and we're going to get this county ready for all sorts of man-made and natural disasters. But we got a lot of ground to cover between now and when I'm sworn in. I want you to start, if you have not already done so, start preparing to be able to take care of yourself materially. Make certain that you have lots of food on hand for every member of your house, fresh water, medicine. There's great sources online where through a doctor you can get a prescription to numerous antibiotics and things that you might need in an emergency situation. If you have firearms, be buying ammo, buy extra fuel, buy extra supplies. If you have one and you can have two, then get two, but be prepared for anything. Hopefully we never have to use it, but there's some great groups in Kootenai County right now that are helping assist people to be prepared, because being a good county of strong people that can weather any kind of a storm, it's going to require everybody to pull their own weight. And while you have the cash right now, even if you don't think you do, start incrementally getting yourself ready. Buy books, buy candles, buy lanterns, you name it, come up with your own list, but be prepared, because we also want to help out our neighbors. That's what we are as Americans. We are fiercely independent, but we also must care after those that can't care after themselves. So whatever your capacity, get prepared mentally, spiritually, socially, materially. Be ready, and hopefully we never have to rely on any kind of our backups and our reserves. But how much better will you be the next time COVID comes around if you don't have to run out and buy toilet paper from Costco.
Yeah, the TP fiasco. But get yourself some ivermectin.
Yeah,
I mean, we
ivermectin.
were being made fun of. What, horse paste, horse dewormer? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's been touted now as an absolute miracle drug, and you have to know if government and the medical industry was trying to suppress that, probably something to it. Stock up on it.
Yeah.
And Dan was referencing med kits to have those on hand, and that would be an important one to have in those kits.
Yeah. So look, I have lots of hope though. And part of that hope is I know the spirit of the American people, and especially the good people in Kootenai County. I'm amongst you every single day. I'm continually encouraged, and I am motivated. I'm sharpened by being around you and knowing that there are sons and daughters of liberty right here, and people that aren't moving from blue states that still carry the exact same fire for liberty without compromise. So yes, while we have very uncertain times ahead of us, especially going into this 2024 election, have heart, stay strong and of good courage. Don't despair. Look how you can do good to all around you, to help people out. And also ask yourself, as I do often, I've got a painting in this very room that is of the founders when they were signing the Declaration of Independence. And I continually ask myself, am I worthy to be in those men's presence because of their sacrifice of their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor? And you too should be asking yourself that every day. Believe in God, believe in Jesus. He will get us through these things. Look out for your neighbor. Be strong and of good courage. I look forward to seeing you next week. Send your questions in. Visit us at theidahosheriff.com and on all platforms. If you want to have a cigar with me, let me know. I'm going to be at the Racketeer here this next week, and I'd love to meet any of you that want to share a stick and talk about all things liberty without compromise. God bless you all. Have a good night.
Good plan. Good plan.